Okay. So good day everyone. So we are the group 2. I am Danica Dalupang together with my group mates Miss Castillon Charlotte, Miss Emmy Dwayne Celis, Mr. Cruz, and Mr. Cernio. So, we are here to present and discuss the academic value of literature to children. So, before anything else, we would like you to participate in our short game. If you are familiar with this game, it's actually called as Guess the Gibberish. So, I am going to present around random words that will appear on your screen. So, if you know the answer, you will just raise your hand and I will allow you to unmute your microphone and then read the words aloud until you guess the right word. So if you get the correct answer, then you will be automatically given a point. So are you ready? The next slide. Now let's start this game. So the first words are this. Please, kindly raise your hand if you know the answer. Okay, Miss Roquero.
I think it's a value.
Okay, very good. So the next word that we have is yeah, here. So next word, please. Okay, so unmute your microphone if you want to answer. Miss Salem. Yes.
It's academic.
Yes, that's right. It's academic. Next word. Yes, Miss Bergonia.
So I think it's literature.
Yes, it's literature. Very good. Next word, Mr. Flores. Go ahead.
I think it's children.
Yeah, that's right. It's children. So the next word that we have is okay, Miss Estabaya.
Imagination.
Thank you. It's imagination. So, so the last word that we have here is so can who's raising your hand? Miss Roqueros. Yeah.
I think it's a transactional.
Yeah, that's right. It's transactional. So I think you all got the correct answer. So thank you for participating for our short games. That's all for today. So now let us move on to our topic, which will be introduced by Miss Castillon.
Okay, for the learning outcomes of our lesson, it will define and understand the values of literature to children. And the next is discover the significance of children's literature from academic basis. And also identify other values of literature to children which may have indirect effect to their academics. So next slide, please. So why is it important to study children's literature? So, Children's literature is important because it gives young readers to a chance to explore literature and develop their own opinions. And also, it also encourages their critical thinking, their emotional intelligence, and their creative thinking. And additionally, it helps with the growth of the kids, their personalities, and their communication abilities. So, um, some children should be instilled with a love of reading while they are still young and impressionable by their parents and teachers. So, because they are just starting to form their own thoughts, as we all know, a lot of children are highly innocent and naive and will believe whatever they read. So, and also, reading books, it also provides children a far larger perspective on the world and has the power to influence many parts of a child, including how they will live as adults. And also, children's literature can help children become more caring, intellectual, and open minded. So, next.
Now we are going to talk about defining children's literature and its different genres. What is children's literature? Children's literature is a collection of written works and illustrative materials designed to entertain or educate children. It had only reached an embryonic stage previously. Children's literature did not emerge as a distinct and self-contained genre until the second half of the 18th century. Also, children's literature includes high-quality picture books for children from infancy to adolescence that covers topics that are interesting and relevant to children their age. It can be written in the form of prose, poetry, fiction, and nonfiction. Next slide, please. Next po. Let's talk about the early start of children in having literature. They usually had books at home and they observed adult reading. They were read to by adults and they had someone to talk about books, reading, and literature. Next slide po. Now, this is the difference between television and literature. We all know that um, this generation we have television and literature, and some of the children they mostly have television than having literature. For television, the television is program is in control, and while in literature, uh, it can set one's own pace. In television, the presentation proceeds at a predetermined pace. Also, it is little or no interaction with the viewer. In literature, the voice can give lines with different emotions. The illustration can be studied, discussed, and touched. Anything in the book can be reread, lingered over, or returned to.
Ay, ako na rin. So thank you for that insightful start, Miss Celis. Now let us move on to the values that we can see or discover in the children's literature. So last meeting, the first group discussed the personal values of literature to children, which totally made us realize how significant literature is to children. So to further broaden our knowledge, if there are personal values, there are also an academic values. And that is what we are going to tackle about later on. So before that, let us try to explicate the idea of literature when it comes to children's literature. So literature has something to do as a core or a center for contributing a growing experiences of a child. So literature allows a child to extend and enrich their knowledge upon something. So their thoughts, experiences, and imaginations will shape their development, not just in personal basis, but also their academic development. So when we say academic values, these are the values that will mold them to have a better understanding and performance as well that is based on their academic goals. So it means that they are involved in extending and strengthening their knowledge as well as their creativity. So when the children are exposed to literature, it means that it affects many aspects of their lives, which gives them the opportunity to develop their thoughts on the books they read or anything literacy pieces, and by these ways, it strengthens their minds, their cognitive development, and also it encourages them to have a deeper thoughts by just reading and reading. So next slide. So what are those academic values? Let us try to look at this first academic value: improving reading skills. So how did it become an academic value? So when we say reading skills, it involves expanding a child's vocabulary as well as their comprehension. When a child is exposed to literature, which has something to do with the books, stories, poems, poetries, and even arts, and so on and so forth, they can encounter such words that are unfamiliar to them, or sometimes the books they read often contain words that they might not otherwise use in their everyday communication. So what they're gonna do is to look for its meaning together with its pronunciation. So their curiosity will turn out researching that words by reading another materials or just by asking an adults to read it for them. So by that ways and ideas, that is the time wherein their vocabulary are expanded, and also the basic language skills are also developed. So to improve their reading skills, to improve the reading skills of a child, it is also important for adults, especially for the parents or teachers, to foster an enthusiasm for reading, or to have a desire of reading to their children while they are still young. And it's true that how can a child love reading if you, as an adult or a guardian of your child, doesn't instill a love of reading? So it really starts with an adult. It really starts with an adult who can support or read to a child, because the more an adult reads to a child, the larger their vocabularies grow, and the more they understand about the and the more they understand the world around them. So as a time passes by and when a child is starting to grow up, they will be more interested and aware of the words they utter. It's because they read a lot, or read by adults. It brings them or express them to new vocabularies and speech patterns. That's the time where they learn to absorb information about how to form sentences and use the words effectively. So it probably aids them in the development of better reading and communication skills as well. So improving reading skills become an academic value because by just helping children to grow their vocabulary skills with exposure to new words and listening skills as well, they are positioned for academic success. So next slide. So another academic value that we can discover here is the developing writing voice and style. So through the exposure to more diverse literature, reading skills are not just the only way to develop, but also the voice and style of children in terms of writing. Once a child is incorporated to literature, such as pieces of text, whether it is a short or long pieces of text, from a range of genres, authors, and others, they will gain a more complete understanding of their world and the people around them. So before the children become a good writer or learn to acquire skills in writing, they should first become a voracious readers. Meaning to say, they should first be eager to read a lot or to have a desire of acquiring what they read. Just what I've said earlier, the more a child reads, the more vocabulary he or she will be introduced to in context. And as a result of for that, more words are learned. So again, reading brings children to a variety of word choices and sentence patterns that they might apply to their own writing. So in simple words, once they have learned that, they can now easily have their own voices and style. So it will lead them to have more interesting ideas of their own. For example, if a child read a short text or a poem rather, they are more likely to be exposed to different techniques or more most likely to expand their own range. They will first read, learn or study that particular piece, and they will start to mimic it, like how was it delivered and how was it written as well. And after that, they will have the urge to make or bravely create an interesting new compositions of their own by using their own voices and style. Next slide. So the next academic value that we have here is learning content area knowledge. So this is one of very simple to understand because it also connects to the recent academic values that I have tackled a while ago. So in order for a child to learn or expand their knowledge in a specific content area, again, they must be exposed to literature while they are still young. So they should read a lot of books or any literary pieces. It's because it can offer a child a wide breadth or a great depth of information, experiences, and knowledge. Or in other words, it develops the critical thinking skills of a child. So when a child learns and understand what she or he is reading, they are the one who will decide what she or he thinks about the book and its contents, meaning to say they are most likely to become an active reader, like they know how to explicate meaningful thoughts of literary works that they are reading. For example, they can predict what will happen next in a story using the clues that they have gained from what they have read. They create questions about the main idea, the messages or plot. They also monitor understanding of the sequence, context, especially characters, and they connect events in the text to prior knowledge or experience. So to put it simply, by being exposed to literature, they learn to make sense of how the information they're reading connects with anything. Next slide. So the last academic value that you can see here in your on your screen is the promoting art appreciation. So the influence of literature to children has something to do with promoting art appreciation. This is an academic value that shapes the creative minds of every child. It gives children an opportunity or multiple ways to express themselves, their thoughts and feelings through art. It encourages them to discover their artistic selves. So everyone can enjoy art, but we all know that the young children are most likely at the age of enjoying arts. So in terms of literature, how can arts be appreciated by children? So children are exposed to books, right? And books can be a window of art appreciation. Meaning to say, lots of books interest children, not just in its context, but also through its visual images. So children are most likely to be captivated by it, and through this way, it will help them to grow into the ability to read and speak the language of art. So that's how simple it is. By promoting art appreciation, it involves them to draw or illustrate the images from their minds and turns it out to be a meaningful idea that they can share and express with their peers. So that's all for my part. Let us move on to, or rather, may I call on Mr. Ludwig Sebastian?
Okay, so thank you very much for that, Miss Delupang, no, for the very in-depth explanation of your topic. So now I hope I am audible to everyone, and let's move on to the rewards and the indirect ways which literature can improve the academic performance of children. So as you can see here in my slide, reading rewards in two ways. So, immediate satisfaction and long term benefits. So, what do we mean by this? Now, next slide, please. Okay, ayan, nakikita ba na immediate satisfaction, okay? These are the benefits one could attain during or after reading. It is characterized with the emotions and satisfactions that a reader experiences while engaging with a literary piece, no? So, for example, when we as a student or like as an individual ourselves, when we read a novel or like any piece of literature at all, like we tend to feel the emotions which are being portrayed or which are being told through the writing at the time that we are reading it. You know, we are immersed as, how do you say this, as we browse, through walls and walls of text which tells us what is happening in the story, how the plot is thickening, what's happening in the climax, how the story ends. And these are some of these feelings include joy, sadness, the feeling of pride, and even satisfaction from, like, for example, when we alam ko nakikita niyo to. You guys see this in like telenovelas in uh, Philippine afternoon shows, mga wildflowers, satisfaction, no, yung sa mga revenge stories. So, ang immediate satisfaction, this pertains to how it makes us feel good or benefits us at at a short term or like at a short span of time. For me, kunyari, for example, when I'm reading literature, I tend to feel good and I tend to set my mind off of things that stress me out. And since I am able to use literature as a medium to avoid stress, this becomes beneficial. It becomes an immediate satisfaction. It is immediate because I still have to deal with stress later on after I am done engaging with the piece of literature that I am consuming. So, next slide, please. Excuse me. So, next we have long term benefits. Now, these refer to the things a reader may attain which will be useful for them in the long run. So, this is commonly associated with reflections, analysis and development. It does not manifest as quickly during or after reading, but rather be more realized over time. So, to explain, no, when we finish reading, say, a certain piece of literature like a novel, we're able to realize the lessons and the valuable insights by the time we finish it, since we are allowed to fully grasp the essence, as a whole, because we have a full view of the story or the poem or whatever. So long-term benefits pertain to reflections that we have after reading, how it applies to our lives, the realizations and the interpretations we may associate, after we go through the text. And from these reflections, from these analysis, we can pick up values, moralities, moral lessons even, that we can carry on even like at the end of our life. And maybe that is a testament to how powerful literature could be. So next slide, please. Hello. Okay, am I audible po ba for everyone?
Yes.
Yes po.
Okay, ayan, thank you, Miss Ira. Next, let's move on to other values of literature for children. So, next slide, please. Oh, Okay, so other values of literature for children, these. Uh, okay, so these are other things children can attain from literature, which may indirectly affect their academic performance. So first we have enjoyment. When children enjoy what they are reading, they tend to be motivated to consume even more literature, which could play a significant role in their development, especially when we talk about language learning. So as we know, as we previously learned nung first year tayo, motivation plays a huge role in learning in general. So imagine if like pieces of literature could motivate a child to read and read, then it could relate to the values which Miss Dalupang discussed earlier, such as the improvement of their vocabulary, their word choices, the way they form sentences, and the like. So it's indirect, but it's related. So next, we have immersion and imagination. Immersion and imagination, since many pieces of literature utilizes imagery, very descriptive words, this develops the curiosity of children and helps them think more and develop their imagination. Because, for example, when they read like a big red car passed by the cathedral, ganyan ganyan, they tend to imagine it in their mind, and if they haven't encountered, say, the word cathedral before, or do not know what it pertains to, then it motivates them to learn even more, because then they question themselves like, what is a cathedral? Or ask their guardian or their parents, a grown up, for help, like, mommy, daddy, what is a cathedral? And then they'll know. They'll be able to know more. So they might find themselves asking, what are the things being described in the stories, since they, might not have seen it before. So this this prompts them to question at a young age, which, in my opinion, no, which is good, since it develops their mind and allows them to immerse themselves in books while also paying attention to the real world. So next we have emotional development and understanding. No? Aside from imagery, ang mga novels, like the novels we read, the pieces of literature that we read, they portray emotions. They give lessons to life which may touch our hearts. They are very depicted in literature, no? From joyous moments to kunyari, when the protagonist celebrates a victory, or the deepest sorrows, or when they, for example, lose a loved one. It can be found in literature, in different genres, even in children's literature. So when these children, if they are able to understand the emotions of others well, they become better in socializing. They become, more of a people person. They are able to adjust how they behave towards certain emotions, which are being displayed in front of them, or which they experience. Aside from being, having empathy towards other people, they're able to be in touch with themselves, you know, and with their emotions, and be able to deal with it effectively. And socializing is a big role, especially in the academe, no? Since our curriculum, or education in general, requires collaborative learning, no? Which, for example, yung mga groupings, for example, the groupings and pairs. So this could be useful for them in the future. Next we have is reasoning. So reasoning, you know, sa mga stories, in the stories, many situations and problems are revealed, because they have plots, and they might range from like being the simplest to complex mind twisters. So nevertheless, when children are exposed to scenarios wherein they are immersed in the problem solving process, for example, they are reading like a crime novel, or maybe that's inappropriate for the age, but like more child friendly problem solving stories, Their reasoning and their critical thinking are trained, which will prove useful in the academic setting, since we encounter problem solving lessons or items in exams, especially in subjects like mathematics, science, even, and the like. So, next, we have discovery of interests and preferences. This is valuable because as children browse the expansive selection of literature already present within our world, and accessible, through the internet, they start to develop their tastes and their preferences. So this might range from small things like what color they like, what food or cuisine they wish to sample in the future when they grow up. Like, I want to try a croissant, I personally have experienced that. So, um, two more critical things, such as like what type of schools they want to get to in the future. Like, for example, they read Harry Potter. Oh, I want to go to Hogwarts. Just kidding. Uh, Yun nga, you like what type of schools they wish to go into, like which professions they wish to pursue, since many professions, makikita children see or read in literature, and even how they want to live their life, because this might be a controversial take, but I believe that children, especially when they are developing, it certain experiences can influence them a lifetime and affect how they live. So that's all for the other values of literature for children and how it indirectly, though still related, uh, affects their academic performance, or their academic capability rather. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so literature as a transactional process. So it says here, experiencing literature as a transactional process refers to how the meaning is constructed in the transaction between a particular reader and a particular text. So this means that readers bring their prior knowledge and experiences to bear on the reading event. Generally, meaning is constructed during the transaction between the reader and the text. All right. So, literature as a transactional process. Now, what does this mean? So, the term transactional here is used because the meaning of certain texts, they are dependent on the background experiences brought with the reader, or the experiences the reader brings with them, and when engaging with a piece of literature, and this is different for every reader. So from this perspective, the reader, he or she or they plays a crucial role in the creation of meaning, since they use their prior knowledge to interpret and react to specific pieces of literature. So you see why it is transactional. Please excuse the typographical error. That is not transactional. It's transactional. No. For example, me, I read this story, which is a true crime story. And yan, syempre, with my preferences and my ideologies in life, which I live by, I can react differently to that certain piece of literature, and my reaction could vary from what the writer has intended for the literature to elicit from me. So yun, kaya siya transactional. That's why it's transactional, because the reader reacts, but the piece of literature has a specific objective. So the transactional process in children's literature, it is seen more as of a way of knowing and to help children uh, make connections to the world around them, since they have prior experiences, like they have prior knowledge about stuff, and then they read stuff about it, or stuff that they don't know, and they compare and contrast them. They try to connect it with each other. So it is, how do you say this? It is utilized in a way to help the children be familiar with diverse types of stories in their own way. So it also helps them, learn about the characteristics of the real world, as well as different social circles and the society they live in. And in addition to this, children will also, be able to gain insights into their own personalities and identities as they engage with specific piece of literature and, see how it changes them, how they react to it, and, how they choose to act after reading that piece of literature. So, I think no, that is all for my part. Thank you so much. Move on na po tayo sa next presenter, which is Mr. Sergio for the conclusion. Thank you so much.
So yeah, thank you so much, Ludwig, for providing those insights. So previously, to the quick summary on what we've discussed today. So it's basically the first one is the different genres. So we focus there or here on regarding to the children's literature, and second is how children literacy started. So basically, as Miss De Lupang started mentioned earlier, the literacy of his children started at home. So basically, with the guidance of the parents, and it is the parents. It's a foundation of the children's for you for them to be able to learn something. The influences their children by through reading, watching movies, so those platforms. Now, the most I think that stood out for me is when it comes to academic values regarding to the reading skills or academic skills that influence the children to improve their academic literature. So basically, reading is giving the the childrens to become more wide in their vocabulary when it comes to specific pieces of like let's say short story poems, and it also helps as well the art and how it has been delivered by, let's say, their parents in when telling or reading bedtime stories. So yeah, it affects for the literacy about the children academic value, and then the benefits are, yeah, those are the benefits that has I've mentioned earlier. It is for become to be ready for the future, to bridge the gap you know and shaping their future by reading books and some of the pieces. So those are the topics that has discussed by our group mates earlier. So yeah, that's all.
Okay,
So
thank
those are the, yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
okay. Okay, thank you, Mr.
sorry, go
Sergio.
ahead.
Okay, so I hope our group hopes that you somehow found our discussion enjoyable and that you've learned something today. And we would like to thank everyone which participated, even though we are recording this quite late already, 11 p.m. in the evening. So thank you so much for your participation. We really sincerely appreciate it. So that concludes our report for today. Thank you so much. Again, we are Group 2, composed of Miss Celis, Miss Castillon, Mr. Lupang, Mr. Cruz, yours truly, and Mr. Sereno. Thank you to everyone here, especially to Miss Ira Joy, who volunteered to present our slides for us. Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone.